Tonight we have a wonderful guest, and before I get into that, let me just say that this event is being brought to us by Master Force International Leadership Academy. Master Force came on the scene in the early 90s, teaching children and parents how to use meditation to actually bring harmony into their lives and into their community. We're grateful that Master Force is offering this opportunity for us to hear more about what it takes to ignite our soul connection. So tonight we will be speaking with Greg Stanton, and we will be talking about a phenomenal topic, a topic that I say is long overdue for our community. That topic is bridging the gap between Christianity and spirituality. Now, before we hear from Greg, let me give you a little bit about his background. Greg Stanton has a MA and is a Christian counselor, life coach, specializing in assisting African-American couples and individuals. He has uniquely developed his skills to provide services primarily with, using the telephone and the internet, in addition to face-to-face services and workshops. With over 30 years of experience as a pastoral Christian counselor and coach, and as a graduate of Roosevelt University specializing in counseling, he is currently serving as a life spiritual coach, working with a broad spectrum of individuals. Among his areas of expertise are African American male and female relationships, premarital counseling, divorce, grief, addiction, recovery management, and spiritual development. He operates in various spiritual gifts, including healing. Greg Stanton is an interactive, engaging, solution-focused change agent. His approach is to provide support and practical feedback to help individuals effectively address personal life challenges and accelerate the process to achieving an optimal life. Greg's credentials are very impressive. The thing that I like the most is that he has activities and memberships inside of professional recovery coach addictions, professional spiritual life coaching, professional divorce recovery coaching. He's a certified effective Black parenting workshop facilitator. He's certified as an employee assistant professional, and he's also a certified addictions counselor. So tonight, we are very privileged to have Greg here to speak with us. I can fondly say that I have known this brother, this king, for over 20 years, and I have been amazed at the work that he has done inside this community. So, Greg, are you there?
Yes, I am. Good evening. How are you all?
Good evening, Greg. Thank you so much for giving your time and energy to this conversation. How are you?
I'm great. I'm in a great place right now, and I'm just ready to speak into the community and just share what I can to take us to the next level in our evolution process.
Very good. Now, I did read a little bit of your background, but can you actually fill us in on what's going on with you now and what particular things that you're actively engaged in so we can actually get to know you just a little bit better?
Okay. Well, at this current moment in time, I've shut down practically everything that I've been doing, just clearing myself for the upcoming year. I'm moving into my 52nd birthday in the month of January, and this time of the year is the time that I've learned over the last few years that it's good to just shut down everything. And this is actually the first time I've completely shut down the majority of my activities other than those that require my professional attention. But prior to shutting down, most recently, I've spent the last 30 years of my life in ministry. And when I say ministry, that's from the traditional Christian perspective as a Protestant that has spent time in the faiths, the denominations such as the Baptist, Church of God in Christ, Pentecostal, or the Holiness Movement. And I ended up the last 15 years in what's known as the Word of Faith. Although they don't acknowledge it, it's more of a metaphysical approach to the Scriptures, which has led me to where I'm at today. Alongside of that, on the secular side, as you've mentioned from my resume, I've spent quite a few years doing private practice as a counselor, which evolved into coaching because I saw coaching more vibrant, and you saw people moving towards their future versus being stuck in things that have happened in the past. And so I find myself today at a place where I'm in the process of evolving. Come January, I look to rebrand myself in a totally different manner.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, happy early birthday, 52. That's amazing.
And I think we share something in common. Happy birthday to you.
Yes, but just to crack the whip over here, I am the oldest.
Right. I received that. You're not counting eternal time. In natural time, you may be true.
Okay, that's right. You're still the big brother. I do. I surrender to that. That is very true. But it is a very gracious gift to have you as my true god brother, born on the same day, just 2 years apart. So it is amazing the path that we found ourselves on together, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Very good. So you are from Chicago originally, Greg?
Well, I grew up on the great side of Chicago known as the West Side, and from birth, which is 60 through 68, I lived on the West Side, and in 68 we moved to Maywood, which was a very middle-class community at that time, so the greater part of my youth was spent in that type of environment. After spending in 68 to 78, in 78 I graduated, went down to SIU Carbondale, where my world expanded because I began to interact with African Americans who were on different socioeconomic levels, which caused me to come to realize that although we all look alike because of our life experiences, we have quite a few differences that we as a people group have to deal with.
Yes,
so the long of it, I did grow up in the western suburbs, but majority of my life has been spent here in the Chicagoland prior to me going into the military, where I spent 10 years, and I traveled all over the world. And so with the United States Navy, I'm probably the only sailor that never went to sea but saw the entire world.
Oh, that's an interesting story. I don't know if I know that one. Very good.
All right.
So you actually, when you were down at SIU, you pledged?
Yes, I joined there's only one fraternity, historically black fraternity, that is. That's Phi Beta Sigma, blue and white fraternity. And to all my brothers of the black and gold and all the other colors, I'm just joking with you all. Yeah, I am a Sigma.
Yeah, I saw all the hands go up, right?
We're going to have a Pan-Hail meeting right here.
Right here. So, Greg, I'm very excited about this evening's conversation because it's something that you and I have probably been talking about for about 20 years in different contexts because we've evolved from one level to the next. And as I recognize today, even though we thought we were on different paths, we actually were on moving in the same direction. So different paths, but moving in the same direction. And now here we find ourselves pretty much right there together, wouldn't you say?
Yes, I agree. And just for the sake of to bring everybody up to snuff, over 20 years ago, actually, the fall of winter solstice of, I believe it was 92 or somewhere in there, I had the opportunity to participate in a very spiritual event known as your wedding, and it challenged me because you had an African-centered wedding, and so that meant I had to kind of begin to look at things at another. It just kind of forced me, and my life has been like that. Certain events would come into my life that would act as catalysts that would cause me to stretch my understanding beyond that which I was familiar with. And through our walking together over the last 20 years, the one thing that I cherish most about our relationship, which eventually evolved into you being my actual coach, was that you allowed me to evolve and involute, which I'll get back to that term in a little bit later, into who I am without guiding per se, other than bringing a lot of clarity and clarifying. And the greatest thing you had to offer was the ability to interact without judgment. So that I want to commend you on that. That's what got us to this place where we are today.
Thank you so much. I found that for me, to grow best, people just need a space of love. And
right.
Judgment is not loving at all. So thank you. I really do work to give people as much space as they need, because I actually require that much space myself, so I grant people that space because that's exactly what I would like to have. So, all right, so let's go ahead and get into the conversation. What are you going to share with us tonight as we look at bridging Christianity and spirituality? What do you have for us?
Well, I'm going to leave it open for the community, but at the same time, I want to guide it. I'm coming from the perspective of my own experience, which I had to eventually experience. And what I mean by that, a lot of times we have these experiences which are external to us, but we never take time to meditate upon them and to get from those experiences that which will help us push towards the next level in our becoming true spirit beings, having this human experience. So tonight I want to talk about a couple of things. I want to talk about I'm coming from a frame of Christianity. So if any of our callers on the line have an issue with Christianity, I'm not going to go into that kind of a dialogue. I believe those who are called to this call are called because there's something that they desire to hear. So I want to keep a dialogue of love that's emanating from this end and coming back to me. So I want to talk a little bit about what's happening here in America, particularly as it pertains to Christianity and what a lot of Christians are not aware of. And I want to talk about authenticity and the necessity of authenticity if we want to cross that bridge. And that bridge that I'm talking about is that gulf that takes you from you are here, your very present place, for many of those who are Christians or believers who are on the call, to that place that is over there that you've been trying to reach, and you've been using the belief system, the tools, the norms that have been told that you should follow, but yet you're not able to get there. And so tonight I hope I can be that bridge that you are willing to cross. So I want to talk about that. So that's kind of the direction I want to jump off with. And I want to temper it with, I have a unique discipline. Being my background is psychology, actually I had matriculated all the way through the schools of higher learning, got to the place where I had got accepted into the doctoral program at Roosevelt University. Actually, I was the first group that got accepted to their PsyD program. About a year into the program, my spirit pretty much led me in another direction. And that's the way my whole life has been. I got to the top of my game, as I would call it, in the United States Navy, Sailor of the Year, looking to go to the next level, and then I was called out of the military. Thought I would do 30 years, did 10 and out. Did 10 with the government, got to the highest echelon that I could get to there, and everything was well, and had that same feeling that said it's time to get out. So I run two tracks at the same time. I run a spiritual track, and I run a what I would call a psychological track of psychology, which is interesting to me because what got me on the spiritual path is the same thing that got me on the path of psychology. When I got my degree, my master's in psychology, I began to realize that what I had learned in the schools and the clientele that I was dealing with wasn't being real effective. The majority of my clientele were, I would say 99% of those I was seeing were African American, and of those 99%, probably a good 90% of those were females coming to counseling. Now, what I found when I'm dealing with females in counseling, women have a tendency to be a little bit more intuitive. So that meant my style was shifted from being a very left-brained oriented towards being, dealing just with just the facts to now dealing with the creativity that the person brought to. And I say that to say that caused me to look at my belief system, because I was putting myself out as a Christian counselor. So I had African Americans coming to me because most of the healthcare providers or the HMOs and PPOs and insurance carriers were referring quite a few people to me, because at that time in the 90s, a lot of African Americans were now saying, look, I want a black therapist. And I had branded myself